Good morning, everyone. Salvation, yes, but there's more. What is this more? Well, that's what we're going to talk about today. Salvation, yes, but there's more. Before we get into that, I just want to share a little bit about our experience on Friday. You know, Friday was the March for Life, and we took a bus from both Madonna and St. Joe's and a little bit of the parishioners. It was a wonderful experience. Probably, I've been doing this now for about 19 years, and I think it was the largest group that has ever been. I bet over 500,000 people. It was amazing to see a peaceful, calm, joy-filled witness for the dignity of the human person. So again, we had 21 students from Madonna. I think we had 8 from the 7th and 8th grade from St. Joe's. We had some teachers. We had, I went, and also our bishop. Our bishop joined our particular group. So I was down at the chancery, and I was talking to the bishop's secretary, and she said that, by the way, Father, don't lose the bishop. And I said, who could lose the bishop? I lost the bishop. 500,000 people, and he somehow got away from our group. Now, just to give you a little bit of insight, so he arrived here the night before and was going to just try and grab a couple of hours of sleep at the rectory. When he arrived, he forgot his phone. Forgot his phone at the cathedral rectory. Now, I don't know about any of you, but if you were maybe about a half an hour into your drive realizing that you didn't have a phone, would you have turned around and got your phone knowing that you would not have had it for 30 hours? I would have. Yes, our students said, yes, absolutely, can't go 30 hours without my phone, okay? But he didn't. And he got here. I left the door open because I had Mass over at Sacred Heart. But he didn't try the door. He just figured it would be locked. And there were basketball games going over. So he went over to the grade school basketball game, and then he eventually went over to Madonna's basketball game, and he just spent time with everybody. And I just kind of watched him. He would talk to this person and that person, and it was a great experience. He and I probably got about an hour of sleep before we got on the bus, and we headed out at 12:30. So we got there, and it was amazing also to see how he would just take some time with all of our students and the adults there. It wasn't just our group, too. So we went to the Capital One Center, and it was filled from top to bottom, and all of the chairs on the floor as well. There were over 20,000 people at this Mass. It was amazing. And it was just to see the presence of all of these people coming together, again, for the witness of life and also to celebrate the holy sacrifice of the Mass. So we got walking, and we were eating like a brown bag lunch, although the bishop and I had to divest, and then I was just trying to get him away from all the other his brother bishops. So we got there, and everybody else had eaten their lunch, and so we were at the end of the police escort down to the march. So the bishop and I are carrying these brown bag lunches, and we're eating, and I finished the pepperoni roll, and then there's some fruit there and some granola bars, and then I got to the water. So I unscrewed the water, but the water was still in the brown bag. And here I am, drinking from and I thought, oh my gosh, I hope no one caught that on video. I took it out of the brown bag and finished my water. So we got there, and I don't know if it was just his presence. In the 19 years that I went, 5 of them were as a seminarian, and then the rest of the time I was a priest. Maybe one time somebody stopped me for a confession. There were multiple times where I had to stop the group because somebody grabbed the bishop and said, would you hear my confession? Hundreds of thousands of people walking around, and here he is in the midst of that, hearing somebody's confession. There were other times where he just kind of went to another group and we had to stop our group. And well, there was finally a moment where we took everybody to the bathroom, and then we started walking, and we realized we still had a couple more people. So the group stopped. The bishop kept going, and he was gone. And I thought to myself, well, he spent 40 years a priest in the Archdiocese of Washington. He, out of the 42 people that are on this trip, he knows Washington and the mall like the back of his hand. So, and he also knew the bus, and he knew where we were to meet, Independence, 6th Street. The problem was, he didn't quite get the time right, and we didn't say that so the group went up the hill and didn't go to the Supreme Court. We just went right in front of the Capitol and then got on the bus. So I separated from the group and went to Independence and 6th Street, and this is me. Okay, I'm just going back and forth. I'm like, oh my gosh, I lost the bishop. I lost the bishop. Well, the kids got on the bus, and they came and they picked me up at 6th and Independence. But they wouldn't let us sit there, so we had to go to 7th and Independence. And we're waiting, and somebody knocks on the door of the bus and says, you're going to have to leave. You can't move, you can't stay here. The bus driver said, I'm waiting for a bishop. And he said, all right, well, you got 5 more minutes. That's it, you got to move. And I just kept thinking, I got to get these students back to their parents. We're going to have to leave the bishop in Washington. He says, I'm never going to live this down. So I'm calling the chancery, and now all the chancery knows, he's lost the bishop, he's lost the bishop. And the kids had already said a prayer when they picked me up. But I kind of said a little prayer, and then I turned to St. Anthony, and I said, Anthony, Anthony, praying, that he would find what has lost. And then I thought to myself, there is no way that this isn't even the place where we're supposed to be. And just as we were about to leave, it was the bishop knocking on the door, and he walked in, and all the kids cheered, and he says, what has been lost has been found. Really, like I said, out of anybody, he was not lost. He knew exactly where he was going. Just a little miscommunication, but what an amazing witness for the kids, and it really was a beautiful time. We have our young people with us. I always like to step through the mission with them, and also to review what our mission is founded on. So we started Catholic Schools Week this week. So first of all, on what foundation is our mission laid upon? One of you. Yes.
The gospel.
Well, you're going to have to say it real loud.
The gospel.
The gospel, and tell me, what is the gospel?
God revealing himself to us.
God revealing himself to us, and really, what does that mean?
He's showing us how to love.
He's showing us how to love. Okay? So again, do you believe in a God that is forgiving? A God that has created you for a purpose? A God that is personal? A God that wants to be in communion with you? See, if you said yes to any of that, you can't get to those conclusions by reason alone. Now, you can reason to the fact that there is a God, God is powerful, God is intelligent, and I'm not God, you're not God. Those are the 4 things that we can reason to. But the things that I just talked about, personal, forgiving, created you with a purpose, wanting to be in communion with you, we don't know that unless He reveals it. And that's the gospel. God revealing Himself to us, and revealing us to ourselves. Who are we? We are sons and daughters of God, created with a purpose, created with a call. So let's go ahead and step through our mission nice and loud so that they can hear. Now you're not in kindergarten. The kindergartners scream it, all right? So, but nice and loud so everybody can hear. We are
Saint Joseph the Worker.
Okay, we are working with Christ for His kingdom. The W stands for
Worship of God in a new covenant.
the O stands for
Outstanding
The R stands for,
reverence for God,
the K stands for,
kindness towards all,
the E stands for,
encouragement, example, and esteem for ourselves and others,
and the R stands for.
vigor in learning, right judgment, and wisdom and charity.
Okay, so it's one thing to know it here, and then it's another thing to know it here and practice it and live it. Okay, so we continue to cultivate, and by the way, the difference between indoctrination and education is that you can ask why. And we get that. We encourage them to continue to ask why and to understand. It's a beautiful understanding of who we are in Jesus Christ. So that's our mission. All right. So, like I said, it's something more than salvation. And what is this more? The more is our call from God. Salvation comes to us freely. None of us earn our salvation. That's given in Jesus Christ. And we talked about that with the baptism of our Lord. Talked a little bit about it last week too, and how, we looked at those questions. Lord, where were you? Why didn't you listen? Why didn't you do something? Have you ever felt that? It's okay to feel that way. But the reality is that if we look, as John the Baptist said, behold the Lamb of God. If we look and we listen, then we will see that God is right here. He's right here in my life and in yours. And not only does he offer the gift of salvation, but he gives us a calling. A vocation is a calling, and we have that opportunity to discern it and say yes to it. So at the children's mass or the grade school mass, I usually use props. I just got two of them today. All right, so one of them is a bottle of water. Who can tell me why we put that in there? Well, just one of you. Yes, Chloe? Pouring ourselves out to God is correct. So there's a particular word that's actually used in the liturgy. Yes?
Oblation.
Say it nice and loud.
Oblation.
Oblation. Oblation is a pouring of ourselves out. So what about this? You can see it's got two marriage rings, and then it's got the Eucharist. So what do we put that in there for? What's the word? Yes, Gigi? Covenant is correct. So a covenant is not merely an exchange of, that's a contract, an exchange of services. You do this for me, I'll do this for you. Okay, it's a covenant. Covenant is a total gift of
Self.
Total gift of self. See, that's important because what we have in the Mass is a reminder of our call. See, in the Mass, at the words of consecration, do you know what they really are? A lot of times people say, Mass is boring, okay? It's the same old stuff. That's okay too, if we're kind of growing and we don't quite understand. And really that's important. If Mass is boring, then we don't understand. Because what's happening here is this reality, okay? That's a symbol, but that is actually made present here. And what is it? It's Christ running after you and me. And he says, I am going to pour my blood out for you. This is my body. You know what's actually happening? That's the marriage vows. That's God giving himself completely to you and me. I take you for richer or poor, in sickness and in health. I will love you. I will honor you all the days of my life. I will sacrifice for you. This is my body, and it's given freely for you. This is the blood of the new and eternal covenant. That my blood will be shed. It will be, it literally says, poured out for you and for me. You know, you can also look at it in this way where, you can say, well, embracing a loved one, you do that more than once. Do you say, oh boy, I gotta embrace my loved one again? Boy, is this boring. I don't know, maybe sometimes we do say that. And we miss the opportunity of the loved one that we have right here. And maybe some of our embraces aren't so heartfelt. Okay? In that regard, it does parallel our life. The calling comes, and this is the more that I want you to walk away with, through the common thread. Okay? We discern our vocation in life, and then within that vocation, what am I to do today, Lord? What are you calling me to do now? And he answers. He answers through the common thread. He will answer you. He'll give you an experience, and this experience, and this experience. And as you continue to ask him, Lord, what is it that you want me to do? How do you want me to do it? He will finally give an experience where you can see the thread hits all of these different experiences. It could be even over a year, and he pulls them, and all of the experiences come together, and now we see. Jesus didn't just walk up to Peter, because it sounds like that in the gospel. Follow me. Okay, I don't know you, but I'll follow you. That's not what happened. What we heard here in the gospel is the common thread being pulled together. He came to understand. They knew him. They talked. He had that experience with Peter, if you remember, cast the net off to the side. Leave me. I'm a sinful man. I said, no, Peter, come and follow me, and I will make you fishers of men. He had a calling for Peter. He has a calling for you and me. As we open our hearts, as we look and we listen and we see, he's going to answer. For me, I remember maybe it started with just the experience of family. Then a retreat in my early 20s. Then being willing to say yes and to run a confirmation program. After I got out of the Navy, I did a year of volunteer work. Then going to Franciscan University. And then finally going to Dallas, where I worked in critical care and trauma. And then dating a great girl, getting accepted to anesthesia school. And all of those things, it came to that point where now he pooled, and all of the experiences came together. And I saw with clarity. And Jesus said, come and follow me. And it didn't stop there. Every single day, Lord, what is it that you want me to do? And how do you want me to do it? And he continues through our experiences and brings them together and helps us to discern. Salvation, yes. Okay, but there's more. What is that more? It's our calling. Our calling for our life and our calling for today. Look, listen, and see that he's right here. And we'll find that clarity in the common thread.